After spending 36 hours in labor to give birth to our son, I woke up alone in the hospital room. My husband had left to celebrate with his mistress. When I called him, he texted back, "You'll get over it." Instead, I waited until the hospital discharged me, and served him divorce papers at the welcome home party his mother had planned. I never thought I'd be the kind of woman to get revenge. I always believed in being the bigger person. I grew up in Muncie, Indiana. Life is simple here. People wave from their porches. We leave casseroles on each other's doorsteps when there's a death or a baby. We don't talk about affairs, not to anyone but our hairdresser. But I'm done being quiet. My name is Rachel. I'm 30 now, but this started when I was 29 and gave birth to my first, and only, child. My son, Caleb. I went into labor on a Tuesday night. It had been a rough pregnancy. I was swollen, tired all the time, and dealing with high blood pressure. My OB warned me about preeclampsia. I was scared but trying to stay calm. My husband, Rick, was acting weird for weeks. Distant. Cold. But I thought maybe he was nervous about being a dad. He never talked about his feelings much. I asked him once, right before the baby came, if everything was okay. He just said, "You're overthinking again." That was his go-to. Make me feel like I'm the one being dramatic. The night labor started, I woke him up at 2:11 a.m. My contractions were 5 minutes apart, and I was shaking from the pain. He groaned and rolled out of bed like I'd interrupted his sleep for nothing. I should have known right then. He didn't even help me to the car. I carried my hospital bag and pillow while he fiddled with his phone. When I asked him what he was doing, he said he was letting his team know he'd be off work for a few days. We got to Ball Memorial, and they admitted me fast. I was already 5 centimeters dilated. The pain was so bad, I couldn't breathe right. Nurses were asking me questions, and I was gripping the bed rails, trying not to scream. Rick sat in the corner on his phone, barely looking up. 36 hours. That's how long it lasted. I vomited 3 times. I cried more than I want to admit. My epidural slipped and had to be redone. I lost so much blood during the delivery that they had to monitor me for a possible transfusion. I passed out for nearly 2 hours after Caleb came out. And when I woke up, the bed was empty beside me. The chair was empty. No husband. No flowers. No phone call. I was alone. At first, I thought maybe he went to the cafeteria. I waited. Then I buzzed the nurse. "Where's my husband?" I asked. She checked the records. "He left early this morning. Around 4, I think. Said he needed some rest and would be back later. Later never came. I texted him around 10 a.m. Just said, 'Where are you?' Sent a photo of Caleb sleeping in his bassinet. No reply. I waited another hour. Then I called. He didn't answer. Instead, I got a text. Just one line. 'You'll get over it.' I stared at the screen for so long the nurse had to ask if I was okay. I wasn't. Something in me snapped. All the pain, all the blood, all the effort I went through to bring our son into this world, while he walked out and sent that? No. That's when I decided I was done with this marriage. I had nowhere to go from the hospital, so I started with the only thing I had, my phone. I checked his Instagram. Nothing. Then his Facebook. Nothing posted for weeks. But his friend, Mark, was the type to overshare everything. There it was. A photo, posted at 6:43 a.m. Rick. Sitting in a booth at Hooters. Big smile. Beer in one hand, the other resting on the thigh of a blonde with long legs and too much makeup for that early in the morning. I had to zoom in, but I recognized her. Emily. She worked at the dealership in the finance department. She'd been hired 6 months earlier. I'd seen them talking once in the break room when I brought Rick lunch. I remember thinking they stood too close. I didn't want to believe it. But now I saw it. He left me after labor to go celebrate with her. The caption on the photo? "This man's a dad now. Time to party." My hand shook as I called my best friend, Maria. She was the only one I could trust with something like this. She'd been through a divorce 2 years earlier and had the name of a good lawyer. I didn't even wait to be discharged. I called that lawyer from the hospital bed. His name was Alan. His voice was calm and steady, like he'd heard this kind of betrayal 1,000 times. "We can move fast if you're ready," he said. "I'm beyond ready." I got discharged the next day. Rick didn't even come pick me up. My sister, Tanya, did. I had to lie and say Rick was busy, because I hadn't told her yet. I needed a plan first. When we got home, Tanya carried Caleb inside while I walked slowly, every step painful. My stitches were burning, but I kept my face straight. Rick wasn't there. But his mother, Nancy, was. She'd let herself in with the spare key. The house was decorated in blue streamers. There was a "Welcome Caleb" banner and cupcakes shaped like baby bottles. She hugged me and cried and took 100 pictures. I wanted to tell her, but I didn't. Not yet. That same afternoon, I called Alan again. "Can we serve him at a party?" I asked. There was a pause. "I've done worse," he said. It was the following Saturday. Nancy had invited almost everyone, friends, family, Rick's coworkers. Emily was on the guest list. Of course she was. Rick finally showed up about an hour before the party started. He acted like nothing had happened. "Hey, you feeling better?" he asked, not even looking at Caleb. I nodded. Said nothing. He kissed the top of my head like he deserved it. That evening, people filled the house. Laughter, balloons, music. I sat on the couch with Caleb, feeding him, surrounded by people who didn't know the truth. Rick was in the kitchen with Emily. They whispered and laughed and touched way too much for people who were just co-workers. At exactly 6:12 p.m., a man walked in wearing jeans and a black hoodie. No one noticed him at first. He made his way to the kitchen, stood behind Rick, and tapped his shoulder. "Rick Munson?" he asked. Rick turned. "You've been served." The man handed him a thick stack of papers and walked out before anyone could even ask a question. Silence. Everyone turned to me. Rick looked at me like he'd been slapped. "You filed for divorce?" he shouted. I stood up, holding Caleb. "You left me in a hospital bed to go drink with your mistress," I said. "So yeah. I filed for divorce." Emily muttered something and walked out. Rick followed her. His mom stood there, frozen. What happened?" she whispered. I told her. Everything. She cried and said she never raised him to be that way. I believed her. Then I packed up and left. I moved in with Tanya that night. Caleb had his own room. It wasn't fancy, but it was safe. Rick tried to call. He left voicemails, saying I overreacted. Said it wasn't what it looked like. That it was just drinks with friends. I didn't respond. Then he got angry. He sent a message calling me selfish. Said I was ruining his life. Said Caleb deserved to have his father around. Gone in less than 2 weeks. Casino charges. Hotel rooms. Flights to Vegas. All with Emily. When I told Alan, he filed emergency motions. We froze what was left. Then I got a subpoena for Rick's financial records from the dealership. That's when things really started falling apart for him. Rick never saw it coming. He thought I'd just leave, cry a little, and get over it. That I'd be too tired with the baby to fight. He didn't expect I'd go after more than just child support. But I knew things about him. Things his new girlfriend didn't. Things even his mother didn't know. And once I got into it, once I saw how deep his lies went, I knew I couldn't stop until I burned down everything he built. About 2 weeks after the party, Alan called me and said, "You're going to want to sit down for this." Rick had been stealing. Not just from me. From his uncle's car dealership. It started small. Putting gas charges on the company card, taking out small bonuses without approval. Then it got bolder. Adjusting commission numbers, claiming fake expenses, even buying a new watch for a client meeting that cost $2,400. Alan had sent a formal inquiry to the dealership once we saw the missing money from our joint account. Rick's uncle, Harold, had his accounting manager pull everything. He called Rick into his office 2 days later. Rick thought it was just about a few mistakes in payroll. He didn't know Harold had a folder an inch thick with proof. He was fired on the spot. And Harold made it clear, if Rick didn't pay back every cent, he was pressing charges. Emily? She found out the next day and blocked him on everything. Apparently, she hadn't signed up to date a broke, unemployed dad with a fraud case hanging over his head. Rick wasn't done trying to get back at me. He filed for joint custody, saying he deserved to be part of his son's life. But his version of being a father was 2 hours every other weekend and not paying a dime in support. Alan and I fought back hard. We gave the judge everything, hospital records showing I was left alone during delivery, screenshots of his "you'll get over it" text, photos from Hooters the morning after Caleb was born, bank statements showing the missing $18,000, the dealership's termination letter for theft. The judge didn't even look at Rick during the hearing. We got temporary full custody immediately. He was allowed supervised visitation once a week at a center downtown. He didn't show up the first 2 weeks. 3rd week, he came in smelling like whiskey and was turned away. The center reported him. That went on record. A month later, Rick's mom, Nancy, called me crying. Not asking me to take him back this time, she was done too. She told me Rick had shown up at her house drunk, yelling about how everyone betrayed him. He punched a hole in her kitchen wall and threw a chair across the living room. She filed a restraining order the next day. The man who'd once been so proud about becoming a father was now banned from his own mother's house. I kept my head down. Took care of Caleb. Went to work part-time at a bakery to stay afloat. Tanya helped with babysitting. We made it work. Then one night, I got a message from a woman I didn't know. Her name was Claire. She found me on Facebook. She said, "I dated Rick back in 2015. I saw your story and I had to reach out. He did something similar to me, left me in the ER after I miscarried. Never came back. Took $3,000 from my savings and ghosted me. I tried to warn people, but no one believed me." I sat in silence for a full minute after reading that. I asked her to write a statement. She did. Alan added it to our growing pile of evidence. This wasn't about revenge anymore. This was about making sure he never did this to another woman again. Alan had another idea. One more nail in Rick's coffin. If he took money from the dealership and the IRS finds out, he's done, he said. We tipped them off anonymously. It turns out Rick hadn't paid proper taxes on some of his bonuses. He also hadn't reported his gambling winnings from Vegas. And the money he took from our joint account? The IRS flagged it as suspicious activity. The one who drank too much. Who used silence like a weapon. Who lied even when the truth would have been easier. The guy who told me "you'll get over it" after leaving me broken in a hospital bed. But now, both versions of Rick were falling apart. And I was watching it all burn from the front row. A letter came in the mail with Rick's name on it, sent to our old house. I forwarded it to Alan. It was from the IRS. 2 pages of questions. Mostly about undeclared income, discrepancies in reported bonuses from the dealership, and sudden withdrawals from a joint savings account without explanation. Alan smiled when he read it. They're not accusing him of anything yet. But this is how it starts. And that was before they dug into his Vegas trip. He'd cashed out $6,000 at a casino on the Strip, then spent over $2,300 at a high-end jewelry store. According to his credit card statements, he bought a necklace and a bracelet for Emily, just days after Caleb was born. Once Emily found out the IRS was involved, she ghosted him for good. And she didn't just walk away quietly, she posted screenshots. On Facebook. In a private group for women in Muncie. One of those screenshots was Rick bragging to her in a text, "She's too tired to fight back. She'll never go through with it." Another one said, "Once the baby's old enough, I'll just take him. Courts don't give a sh*t about moms." That post spread fast. By the end of the day, over 60 comments. Women sharing stories, screenshots, warning each other. People who worked at the dealership chimed in too. Turns out, Emily wasn't the only one. There had been others. At least 3 women he'd messed around with while I was pregnant. One of them was 19, barely out of high school, and said Rick promised her a job at the dealership if she kept quiet. Because if a judge even suspected I was unstable, they could appoint a guardian ad litem. That would slow everything down, drag the process out, and put me under a microscope I didn't deserve. Alan acted fast. He had my doctor write a formal letter confirming I wasn't diagnosed with any mental condition, and I'd passed every postpartum screening. We also brought in Tanya, who testified about my parenting, my work schedule, everything. The judge denied Rick's motion in less than 10 minutes. But I saw something new in Rick that day. Desperation. He knew he was losing, and now he was trying to twist anything he could. Nancy, Rick's mom, hadn't talked to him in weeks. Not since the night he wrecked her kitchen. But then she called me and said she found something. A manila envelope, tucked behind her dryer. Rick must have hidden it there during one of his visits before she cut him off. She dropped it off at Tanya's that afternoon. Inside were 3 things, a burner phone, a hotel receipt for 2 nights paid in cash, a flash drive. Alan and I opened the files. The flash drive had audio recordings. Rick, bragging to a friend at a bar. Loud music in the background. I only married her because she got pregnant. I was gonna leave after the first year, but the money was good. I figured I'd ride it out. The dealership thing? Harold's too old to notice. If she tries to take the kid, I'll just say she hit me. Courts eat that sh*t up. My stomach turned. But I didn't cry this time. Alan just said, "This is it. This is what we needed." The recordings, the financial lies, the harassment, the abandonment, the reckless spending, the custody games. Rick was about to learn what it feels like to lose everything. By the time the final court date came around, I didn't feel nervous anymore. I felt ready. It had been 6 long months since Caleb was born. In that time, Rick had lost his job, lost his mistress, lost his family, and was about to lose his rights as a father. And he didn't even know just how bad it was going to get. We walked into the courthouse on a cold Thursday morning. I wore all black. Tanya held Caleb in the hallway while Alan and I sat in the front row of the courtroom. Rick walked in 20 minutes late, looking like hell. His suit was wrinkled, his eyes were bloodshot, and his new lawyer looked like she wanted to be anywhere else. Nancy sat on my side of the room. That hurt Rick more than anything. He stared at her for a full minute. She didn't even look back. The judge opened the case. Custody hearing for Rachel Munson and Richard Munson. Final ruling. Rick's lawyer tried one last time to paint me as angry and bitter. Said I was trying to punish him for infidelity and that Caleb needed a balanced household. Then Alan stood up. Calm. Steady. And dropped the hammer. First, Alan brought up the abandonment. 36 hours of labor, and Rick left the hospital to party. No contact, no visit, nothing. Then the missing $18,000 from our joint account. Proof that it was spent on hotels, gambling, and jewelry for another woman, right after Caleb was born. Next, the dealership theft. Signed letter from Harold confirming Rick was fired for financial fraud. Supporting statements from former coworkers. Then came the kicker, screenshots from Emily, showing Rick's messages about how I'd get over it and how he'd just take the kid if she pushed too hard. Testimony from Claire and another ex who Rick had emotionally and financially abused. The audio files. Rick, drunk, bragging about marrying me for money, faking love, and planning to lie in court. The judge listened, stone-faced. When Ellen was done, the judge turned to Rick. "Mr. Munson, do you have anything to say in your defense?" Rick stood up. For a second, I thought he might apologize. Instead, he started yelling. "She's poisoning everyone against me. She's crazy. All women are the same, bleed you dry and then play victim." That was it. The judge slammed the gavel. Full legal and physical custody granted to Mrs. Munson. Mr. Munson is restricted to supervised visitation only, pending further psychological evaluation. No overnights, no travel, no contact without supervision. He kept going. Additionally, Mr. Munson will pay back the $18,000 drained from the joint account. Child support will be set at $863 per month, with wage garnishment to begin immediately. Then came the IRS news. Rick was under active audit. The court was informed that if criminal charges were filed, custody would be revisited, and possibly revoked entirely. He screamed. "I won't pay. You can't make me." The judge leaned forward. "You've already lost your job. Your name. Your family. Keep talking, and you'll lose your freedom too." Court dismissed. Rick stormed out of the courtroom, pushing past people, knocking over a trash bin. Security had to escort him out of the building. His lawyer dropped him as a client the next day. The IRS filed charges within the month. Wire fraud, tax evasion, misuse of business funds. He took a plea deal, but still got 18 months of house arrest and 5 years probation. The dealership blacklisted him. No car business in Indiana would touch him. He tried to move to Ohio, word followed him there too. Emily? She posted a full apology online. Said she didn't know he was lying about being separated. She lost her job too, after all the Facebook drama. Last I heard, she moved to Florida. As for Rick's mom, she asked to stay in Caleb's life. I let her. She visits once a month. She's never once defended her son again. I went back to school. I got my teaching license. I teach 2nd grade now. Tanya and I moved into a small house with a fenced yard where Caleb plays with his dog every day after school. Caleb's almost 1 now. He's happy, healthy, and growing fast. He doesn't know what Rick did. Not yet. But one day, when he's old enough to ask, I'll tell him the truth. And I'll show him what strength looks like. Because I didn't get over it. I got justice. And Rick? He got exactly what he deserved. Every last piece of it.